business. That was some of the violations and problems that surfaced in the 1970s. It took them decades to overcome that. I'm afraid, and so are other law enforcement officials, the NSA problems and the scrutiny they're coming under is going to affect their ability to protect the United States, and it's also going to filter down to us and our ability to protect our communities. Here's the problem. The boundary is not precise regarding the types of information law enforcement can collect and keep, regardless of whether it's license plate readers or whether it is a software that goes across social media collecting information for whatever purpose you're using for, monitoring an individual or whatever. The boundary's not precise. And one side over here, you got a legitimate purpose for doing this. You're authorized to do it, and it is a great tool. Get on the other side over here, where there's not a valid law enforcement purpose. You get into the abuse, you get into the problems, you get into the violations of privacy and civil liberties. There has been much discussion, there's been much training, there's been many documents prepared on how to use social media, but very little guidance given on the inappropriateness of it. That is the purpose of one of the things that IACP has worked with the Criminal Intelligence Coordinating Council, which I serve on the Privacy Committee. Here again, not because I'm a civil libertarian, I just recognize the hot stove out there. And so we put together some documents that address the need for having appropriate policies for the use of social media so you don't get into the private and civil liberties violations. And we all know from dealing in intelligence operations that you've got to have rigid guidelines because we're collecting information on persons for whom the evidence of criminal violations is not always evident. That's what intelligence is. I mean, if the evidence was there, we'd have them in jail. So it's not always direct evidence. It's a very sensitive area, but the boundaries are not precise. And it's not that many things are not black and white. I wish it was. That's why it's so important that law enforcement executives be in here, look at the issues, get training, hopefully have some experience because you've got to make a judgment call. When is it appropriate to use social media in this instant? When is it not appropriate? Many times it's not. There's not a black and white answer there. You have to make a judgment call. You can do that from having gotten your experience from touching a hot stove and knowing that that's painful, that's not a good way to go. Or you study the issues, you get some training, you look at model policies, and you get on the course of action to help it protect it. Personally, Vernon Keenan, I grew up in the Okefenokee Swamp, and if any of you ever saw that program, Swamp People, that would have been the smart people in one of the schools I went to. But, I believe in looking at someone else touch a hot stove and learn from that. I don't have to touch it to know it's painful and there's a problem there.